Okay, so last week we did up to verse 8. Anybody remembers anything from our discussion last week? What were we talking about?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
What I remember from the last that we discussed was that Arjuna is convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Arjuna is completely satisfied to see him in his personal form, two-handed form, but he desires to see the universal form of Krishna.
కొంచెం పెడుతున్నాను మీకు.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay, sorry. But Arjuna desires to see the universal form of Krishna not for himself, but to convince others in the future who may think Krishna is an ordinary man. And also you described that also in the future, the imposters who may try to project themselves as God, then they should be ready to show the universal form. And you also mentioned that universal concept is basically for the less intelligent people that want to see God as powerful and with purpose and presence. I think so. You said 3 P's: presence, power, and purpose. And you also mentioned that Arjuna completely understand that he cannot completely understand Krishna. And the only way to understand Krishna is that when Krishna wants to reveal us. And then can only happen when we have complete devotion toward unconditional, unmotivated devotion towards the Supreme Personality. And when a devotee surrenders, Krishna is conquered, even though he is Ajita, unconquered. And I think so you mentioned about Prabhupada saying that this universal form is a godless display of opulence, and a devotee is never interested in that. He is only interested in the personal form of Krishna, that is the two-handed form. And that is what I think. That's what.
Yes, that's a good summary. Yes, devotees are always interested in the Shyama Sundar form.
Yeah, Shyam Sundar.
Yeah. Rimanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaiv Sadaiv Hirdeshu Vilokyanti Yad Shyama Sundaram Achinta Guna Swarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bachami. So Lord Brahma even praised like that. That all devotees are always seeking the two-armed form. Yes, and you brought it out rightly that it's the term universal form essentially refers to show Krishna's power, presence, and purpose. There are 3 P's across the entire universe, right? So Krishna doesn't have any such form that exists in the spiritual world. He sometimes reveals it as a temporary vision to some special souls here and there, and we talked about a few last time. Markandeya Rishi, Yashoda Maya, not Duryodhan, the assembly of the Kauravas, and then Arjun. But out of all that we discussed, Arjun, the form that Arjun is seeing is I would say the most complete, because it has all the other features that others had seen. For example, Yashoda Maya had seen the space aspect of it. Everything in this creation was in his mouth. But she didn't see a Kal Rupa, the death aspect of Krishna, which Arjun will see in this chapter. So it's more complete in one sense. And but still it's a temporary vision. It's a temporary vision. And then the Bhagavatam 2nd canto describes about, creates a more imaginary concept of universal form, where, the lower planetary systems are his feet, and the rivers are his veins, and so that comes in the second chapter, second canto, second chapter. I think there's a mention of that. So that is imaginary, but the purpose of both is a kind of similar, just to let people believe in. If they are not ready to accept the philosophy, they can visibly see and be assured about it. So yeah, so those were the things that we. Anything else anybody had in mind that we discussed, other than what we have already talked about? No? Okay. So let's get going then. So we had up to 8th. Or where was the slide? I had a slide somewhere, right? So there was this the acronym for it was Rupa. So the first 4 was a request, and then 5 to 14 is the universal form as talked about by Krishna himself and by Sanjaya. So that's up to verse 14. From 15 onwards, Arjun starts to speak about the form that he's saying. So we are somewhere in this universal form where I think from the 9th verse, Sanjay is going to start speaking. That's where we'll jump in from. Okay, so where was that? So 9th was the verse. So Sanjay has started speaking here. And so let's just read it. Okay. Sanjay said, O king, having spoken thus, the supreme lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. And in this chapter, many of the verses don't have purports in them. As I mentioned to you, Prabhupada has not given extensive lectures also on this chapter. And we read how Prabhupada in one of the verses, where was that? Yeah, right here in the 8th, he's saying that it's a godless display of opulences. So devotees are attracted by Krishna's loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. So Prabhupada is actually just completely nullifying the universal form. He says, I don't care about it. It's just a display of opulence. So that's an interesting way, and that's the vision of a pure devotee. As I said, at the verse that I quoted from Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Chahurita Bhakti Vilochanena, the people who have anointed the ointment of love in their eyes. The only thing they're looking for is the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not at all interested in this. And Krishna also, out of his love for his pure devotee, he conceals his divinity, his universal aspect. But for some people, he has to display that. People who are just Naradhamas, as Krishna calls them. So now here Sanjay started speaking. So let's see what he's saying. This is 9th verse that we read. Having spoken, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjun. So now, it's Arjun and Krishna speaking. Okay, but from somewhere, Sanjay also comes in. It's like, why are you speaking now? You're not needed to speak here. But he gets excited. Right? So Sanjaya is a Shanta Ras devotee. Okay, so Shanta Ras, there are 5 mellows, right? We all know. There is Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. There are those 5 principal rasas. And then there are 7 that are indirect mellows also. It's given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. It comes in the 19th chapter where Mahaprabhu is explaining to Rupa Goswami the philosophy. there are others, like laughing and awe, adbhuta, chivalry, compassion, anger, fear. So there are 7 other indirect mellows also. So there is direct, the 5 mellows, and then there are some indirect ones. So here, what Sanjay is doing, he's demonstrating his Shanta Ras, and that too as a reverence, in awe and reverence. Because that's the thing in Shanta. It's just awe and reverence. There is no direct service to Krishna. That is why Mahaprabhu, when he mentions the rasas in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he doesn't even speak of the Shanta Rasa. He said there are only 4 rasas. Because Shanta Rasa devotees don't want that, because it's just an awe and reverence. It doesn't have the respect part to it. Sorry, not the loving reciprocation of that. So Arjun is just saying, okay, please show it to me, because there are other people whom I want to get convinced. But so he's a bit reluctant, but then who's excited and jumps to him to tell his vision is Sanjay, right? So everybody has their own perspective, things that they are attracted to. So here Sanjay is attracted to the awe, the wondrous presentation that Krishna is doing, right? So everybody has their own attachments and attractions. Prabhupada told the story once that there was this a businessman, and he was very much deeply involved in his business, and he was getting old. His children wanted him to focus some on spiritual life and some get detached from his work. And they once took him to a crematorium, and there they hoped that, oh, he'll see people dying, so he will feel some remorse in his heart, and there might be some vairagya, some detachment, even if it is temporary, just for the time, but it'll be something. And he goes there and he starts crying, the father, and all the children are happy. Oh, finally, some detachment coming. But later on, the father says, oh, I've wasted my life in doing business of, he was a textile merchant. And he says, I've wasted my life. I should have invested in wood, because people are always going to be dying. So people have their own attachments which run very deep. So that's what we are seeing Sanjay is coming here, speaking up. And we see that, O king, he's referring to Dhritarashtra here. So that's Dhritarashtra. So here he's using the word Yogeshwara for Krishna. So he's a Yoga Ishvara. Sorry, not Yogeshwara, just Mahayogeshwara, actually. It's Mahayogeshwara. It's not just Yogeshwara, it's Mahayogeshwara. Hari. That Lord Hari, who is Mahayogeshwara. Yeah, some yogis can do miracles here and there through mystic power, but and some of them can just to trick off their hand and all that. But Krishna is a supreme mystic. And that is why in the last verse of Chaitanya, of Bhagavad Gita, Sanjay ends by saying, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Tatra Partha Dhanurdhara. That wherever there is Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, who's the supreme master of all mystics. So he's expressing his reverence to that. Right? So he's saying Mahayogeshwara Hari. And he's indicating to King Dhritarashtra that because Krishna is on Arjun's side, your hope for all victory is going to be baffled. And he is Darshayam Ashaparthaya. Darshayam means showing. What is he showing? Rupam Aishwaram to Parthaya, to Arjun. 10:11. Arjun saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. Now, this is interesting. So it describes the clothes, etc. Right? Aneka Vaktra Nayanam. Vaktra means face. There are many faces, many eyes. Aneka Adbhut Darshanam. Right? Aneka Adbhut Darshanam. So it's Aneka Adbhut Darshanam. There are many extraordinary visions. Aneka Divya Bharanam. Ornaments, garments. So there is the word aneka is being used many times. And then it's also using the word Krishna also, Sanjay is also using the word divya. So aneka and then adivya. So they are transcendental, as Prabhupada is translating it, that there are many, and they are also divine. So it's both the qualities are being demonstrated here. It's a very personal thing, right? You're telling this person is dressed this way, he's wearing this scent, and then he's wearing a garland, and there are many ornaments and so forth. So it's a very personal thing. It's a well-dressed form, right? So, so the whole Bhagavad Gita is pointing towards a personal feature of the Lord, and that's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. That when we read it from a bona fide source, we get to know the true essence. Otherwise, it's not possible. So now clothes and fragrances are being described. It's interesting that how it's that all these things, when we are at the temple, right? Many times we all there are flowers that are offered to the deities, and we take them. We also accept them. There is perfume that's put on that cotton bud, and then they put on our hands. So that's perfume. That's fragrance. Deities' clothes are there. That so all that purifies us. It's our nature to have a relationship with Krishna. It's not philosophical or religious. It's a natural consequence of being a soul that we have a reciprocating relationship with God. That's when we feel fulfilled. No one is going to fly in and give us a certificate. We will know when we'll be fulfilled. And that fulfillment only will come when we have a reciprocal relationship with Krishna. And that reciprocal relationship has been made very easy because we can accept whatever Krishna has used. So that is why when you mention fragrances and clothes, that's one aspect also to understand that the reason that all this says so that we can get as prasadam also. So that's why there's a value to all that is being described here. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Uddhava is talking to Krishna, Uddhava says to Krishna that, right, Toyok bhukta shragandha vasos alankar charchita uchishtu bhojanam dasya tam maya jaye mate. That uchishta bhojan, uchishta means what have you have tasted. Vashos alankara charchita, right? Alankar means ornaments. Vasa is garments, right? Then shragandha, shrag is flower, gandha is fragrance. So all that when we offer to Krishna, when we take, our maya gets curtailed. We are able to conquer maya by using these things that Krishna has used. So just like so this personal aspect of Krishna has multiple benefits for us, and it helps us establish the personal feature in our heart. Whereas for impersonalism, it's very, very hard in this material world. In the 12th chapter, we will read that it's very clearly says, Krishna says this in the 5th verse of the 12th chapter, that that it's practically impossible to practice impersonalism in this body, in this yoga. So that's I forgot the verse. So yeah, just like we all are conscious, Krishna is also conscious. He's a sentient being. That means Krishna also has feelings. So having a personal relationship, we're able to closely understand Krishna. Not with our mental speculation, but just out of our submissiveness, we're able to understand him. In the 3rd canto, when the Lord comes as a boar and he's fighting Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha says a lot of words he says many abusive words to the Lord, and Lord feels hurt. He feels pain. It's Tudyamano, the word that comes in the 3rd canto, where Lord Boar is fighting with her. So it shows that he's conscious. If he's feeling pain when somebody is saying some abusive words to him, so he's feeling pain. So he feels heartbroken. When we, Krishna feels heartbroken when I close the door on his face. That's what I've been doing so many lives. Krishna always comes to me and I say, no, Krishna, get out of here. I don't need you. Let me enjoy. I got my job, I got my family. And we've been doing that for many, many lifetimes. So, and Krishna feels hurt. We're talking about the personal aspect of the Lord. Krishna feels hurt with this. I don't know how many of you have had a door slammed on their face. I remember one aspect. I was out for book distribution. It was kids Sankirtan. So I had 3 boys with me, probably in their teenage years, and so we knocked a door. An old man, probably in his late 70s or something. He opened the door, and it looks like he was expecting somebody else. And he saw us, and he just said some abusive words, and he banged the door on our face. So for a minute, all the children were shaken up. There were 3 boys, but luckily they were boys. They were teenagers, so it's okay. We didn't. I just took them out and we sat down. But you get an experience of how bad Krishna must feel when we have been banging the door on his face for our lifetime after lifetime. He has feelings. So that's what I want to. I'm talking about. He has feelings. He's a personal being, just like all of us. And this verse is just establishing that more and more. 12. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. May, that's also not might. It's not even sure that it might do, but it might resemble hundreds and thousands of suns. So I say, Surya Sahasrasya. So the word says Sahasrasya. Thousands of suns rise at the same time. Right? We talked about Shata is 100, Sahasrasya is 1,000. So Bhaved Yugapat Uthita. And Bhaved Yugapat Uthita. At the combination, let's see what Prabhupada is exactly doing. They were simultaneously present. Uthita. So what happens is at the time of destruction, the sun becomes brighter. Sun's effulgence becomes far greater. And that's kind of one of the factors that triggers the destruction of this creation is the increase in temperature of the sun. So Bhaved Yugapad Uttita. Okay. So then he says Yadi Baha Sadrishi Sasayad. So there's an interesting word here, Baha. Baha. So the Prabhupada has translated Baha as light. And then Prabhupada in the purport translates as effulgence, which is the effulgence. The effulgence of the suns. That's what he's using. The radiance probably is the right word, not effulgence, but radiance. So the word, it means light, right? So radiance is light, right? So the word Baha has a very important aspect in our culture, right? Anybody knows any word or any place they have heard this Baha, or they have seen it being used anywhere? Anyone? Nobody has heard the word Baha anywhere? As a part of another word, as a prefix to another word?
This is the Mexican language.
Mexican? No, I'm talking about Sanskrit or Hindi, bro. No Mexican.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
Nobody. So the word Bha comes in Bharat, right? You all know the Bharat, India. Another word for India is Bharat. So the word Bha is a part of that word Bharat, right? So the word Bha means light, as Krishna, as Prabhupada is translating for us, as effulgence, as radiance.
Suprabhani? Suprabha.
Suprabha. Yeah, you can say that Bha. Suprabha, right? When the sun is rising, Suprabhat, that's a morning. So that's also a word, yes. So basically the word Bha has a very important relevance in our culture. Bha, the word Bha means this radiance. So radiance of what? Of a spiritual culture, right? So that's why Bharat, it's called Bharat because, so Rata means engaged. The word Rata, right? We say Kamrata. Kamrat. So it means Kamrat means he's engaged in Kama, in lust, all that. So the word Rata means engaged. The word Bha means light. So people in a place who are engaged in in spiritual culture, in the light of spiritual culture. That's Bharata, right? So it's a society of people who are engaged in a culture of enlightenment. That's why it was called Bharata Varsha, because there people were in a more the environment was more friendly and conducive for spiritual growth. That's why it was called Bharata, right? And even Mahaprabhu says this, right? Bharat bhumi le haila manushya janma jaye, janma sarthak kare karo upkar, kare para upkar. That people who are born in India, in Bharatvarsha, it's their duty to make their life successful and work for the benefit of others. And what Prabhupada did, Prabhupada made the whole world Bharatvarsha, because he created so many people who were not just willing to elevate themselves spiritually, but they're also willing to serve, help others in elevating them. That's the genius of Prabhupada. Prabhupada could bring that India into everywhere, whichever country you go to. United States, he went to Europe, every far flung areas of the world, and there's an ISKCON temple. So that's the beauty of Prabhupada. Yeah. So yes, so remember the word Bha now. So Bha means light. Spiritual culture. People who are living in spiritual culture are called Bharata. Prabhupada is using the word indescribable here. I can't, it was my, yes, it's working. Okay. He's using the word indescribable here, indescribable, which cannot be described. So sometimes words are inadequate to describe spiritual vision. So sometimes words are not necessarily used to fully describe a situation. They can just be as mere indicators, right? For example, somebody can come and say to you, oh, no, like we have read in scriptures that Krishna is like the fresh cloud, fresh rain cloud, which is a bluish black. So that bluish black perception of the cloud and a young boy, that is just an indicator. It's just a pointer towards the Supreme Lord. It's very hard to concoct what Krishna would look like just by that mere piece of information. So similarly, what Prabhupada, so that what I'm describing is that the use of the word indescribable indicates that it's incomplete. Words fall short to describe what what Arjun was seeing there, right? So we try to glorify Lord. We try to describe the Lord. That's also devotional service. But it rarely comes anywhere close to the actual opulence of the Lord. But that doesn't mean we should not glorify him. It's our limitation, and Krishna accepts our limitations. He accepts this as a service. So these are just indications. So the word indescribable doesn't mean we should not put efforts also in there. So we should try to describe Krishna to glorify him, but also understanding that he's beyond our comprehension. Whatever we describe with our tiny brains will fall short of the true glory of Krishna. That's why Prabhupada is using the word indescribable here. 13. At that time, Arjun could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. Into many, anekada. Into many. Yeah, anekada is the word for many, many. So, yes. Tatraikastham jagat kritsnam. So, tatraikastham. So, at one place, he can see everything. Right where he was sitting in the chariot. That's what it means. Tatraikastham. Ekastham is in one place. Jagat. Krishnam, complete. He's able to see everything just while sitting on the chariot. Yeah. So from one place, the whole universe can be seen. Right? And divided into many details. Right. So the word vibhakta means it's been divided. That's what it is. Divided into many, many parts, right? And what did Arjun saw? Arjun saw all this, right? And what is the word being used here is sharire. Sharire Pandavas tatha. So the word sharire is generally used for the body, right? We say it can also mean the spiritual body. Sharire is just doesn't necessarily mean the material body. That's the way to understand this word here. Body is a source of misery, but at a higher level, we can see it as a gift from Krishna for us to reach to him. As Prabhupada would say, make the best use of the bad bargain you've got. So keep your body fit, uh, work hard, eat good, eat healthy, keep your body fit so that you can do service for a long, long time. Because the more time you invest in service, the probability of us going back home in this life increases also drastically. So do service, keep your body and mind fit, read Shastra every day, introspect a lot, meditate what you're reading, what you're hearing, and then this body will be fit for taking us back home, back to Godhead. So the word Sharire can be for spiritual body also. Right? And Krishna is Deva Devasya. So he's calling Deva Devasya. Deva Devasya means Deva Devasya, the God of the gods. He's just not calling him Deva, he's Deva Devasya. So God of the God, Supreme God. That's the way to look at him. Then bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjun bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So Kritanjali, the word is being used as Kritanjali. So Kritanjali means with folded hands. So he's folded his hands. So he's offering prayers now. So now, if you see, there's a sudden change in the mood of Arjun. Till now, Arjun was talking to Krishna as a friend. He was talking to him as a friend. But now, the rasa has transformed from Sakhya to Adbhuta. I mentioned to you about the 5 primary rasas and the 7 secondary rasas. So now there's Adbhuta also in there. So Arjun is reverential now. Arjun cannot see Krishna now. He's only seeing the universal form. So Arjun is overwhelmed. What is the physical reaction he's seeing? Is the hair are standing. And there's a nice verse I always like, Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ. So Abhīṣṭa Roma. So Roma Harshana was the person who is the father of Sutta Goswami, who was killed. Right? So the word Roma. So I always connect this to Roma Harshana. Sorry, that's why I'm bringing it up. So Roma Harshana was that guy. So he was killed by Lord Balram. So yeah, Abhīṣṭa Roma. So there's a bodily, his hair was standing. This is an emotional reaction. He's overwhelmed with astonishment. Right? And this hair standing on end is interesting because Prabhupada talks about this in the first chapter. Which verse is that? Probably, let me see. He talks about it somewhere. Oh yeah, 29. This is the thing. Is it? Hair standing. Sorry, I'm just trying to look for the meaning of the hair standing. Prabhupada talks about it in one of the verses where he says that hair standing just doesn't mean, it can mean it can have 2 meanings. So standing of hair can be a sign of a material condition, which is fear, but it can also be a sign of spiritual ecstasy. Right. So I thought it was 29. Probably I'm wrong. Okay, so I can't find it, but I can send it to you later on if I find it. But yeah, so there were two ways Prabhupada had described what does the standing of hair mean. As I said, spiritual ecstasy or material fear, right? So yeah, so that's the way to understand it. So now it's adbhuta. It's astonishment that Arjun has moved to in comparison to the earlier Sakya, right? And he saw these thousands heads, which actually existed within Krishna, right? So even though Arjun was Dhananjaya and so forth, but still, and he was, so he conquered ignorance and so forth, Gudakesha, but still he was fearful of looking at that. His hair was standing at end. So it also indicates that even though he was fearful, he did not cover up his eyes, but he surely displayed great astonishment. So this is an interesting demonstration of the rasa, right? So what is happening here is that Krishna is in his universal form is invoking that rasa in Arjun's heart, right? And what is instigating that rasa of astonishment is Arjun's looking at it. It's gazing, the gaze that Arjun is having. That's what's instigating that rasa, right? And then he's offering respects and folding hands, right? So those are that's an expression. That's the outcome of that vision. And then his hair are standing. That's also, and then his mind is overwhelmed. So then there is that. So all these are parts of rasas. We will talk about these parts in Nectar of Devotion. So I won't bring it out in detail here. But rasa can have all these parts. Where the one who's the object of that rasa, what are we using to connect to that object, and then what is the expressions that what is happening to me when I'm kind of when I'm going through that rasa, right? What are my bodily movements, whether they're voluntary, involuntary, and what is the expression that I'm showing, like there can be some other expression. So all that is a part of rasa, and that's what is being completely explained here. His hair is standing, which is a involuntary effect, right? And he's offering obeisances and folded, and that's he's expressing himself, right? And he's praying. So all that is a part of the rasa that he's expressing. Here, Arjun was inspired by the relationship of wonder, and in that wonder, although he was by nature very sober, calm, and quiet, he became ecstatic. His hair stood up, and he began to offer his obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. With folded hand, he was not, of course, afraid. He was affected by the wonders of the Supreme Lord. The immediate context is wonder. His natural loving friendship was overwhelmed by wonder, and thus he reacted that way. And now Arjun will start speaking. So from 15th word onward, Arjun will start speaking. So he's going to give his description of the universal form till verse 31. And Arjun's description is the longest. Krishna described himself in 3 verses. Sanjaya took 5 verses, but now Arjun is going to take 16 verses. So he'll start by let's read this. Arjun said, "My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents." So now if you notice, Arjun is giving a vertical description of the universe. So he can see the whole universe in a vertical. So in the top, he can see Brahma, he can see Shiva, and he can see sages which are on the low, right? So we have Bhur, Bhuva, Swarga, Loka, Swarga, what else there? Bhu, Bhuvar, Swarga, Jana, Tapa, Mahar, Siddha, Brahma. So there are 7 planetary systems. I get confused with the names sometimes. But he can see all of them. So he's talking about Brahma on the top, and he's also talking about sages who are living in Mahar Loka and Jana Loka. And then he's going downwards also. He's seeing serpent. So now who's the serpent he's talking about? So the serpent is okay. Uragan. Okay, so that's so the serpents at the bottom is Vasuki, right? So there's Vasuki at the bottom. He's the king of the Nagas, of the serpents, right? So so it's the so Vasuki is, there's a story in the Bhagavatam also of Vasuki capturing Lord. No, not that, but of Bhishma. Actually, it's in the Mahabharata. Sorry, Bhishma, when he was pushed into the river after being poisoned by the Kauravas, Vasuki's servants take him. Right? He meets the Nagas and they take him. And then Vasuki also played a role in churning the ocean and also in the Matsya Avtara uh, episode. So he does all that. So there are all these, so there are stages, divine serpents at the bottom. And Prabhupada is saying there is a snake bed called Vasuki. That's what he's talking about. There are also other snakes known as Vasuki, right? So he's going all the way from the top to the bottom. It's a vertical vision he's giving us. So that's happening here. So first thing which Arjun describes is scope from top of the universe to the bottom of the universe. (16) O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. No end, no middle, no beginning. So now we're getting into the details of the universal form, Rupam Aishwarya. And Sanjay had also talked about something similar, many hands, many bellies. So Aneka, the word Aneka is that we cannot count. And interestingly, this is the only verse where we see the use of the word Vishwarupa in the whole chapter. There's nowhere else this word is used, Vishwarupa. So just a quick fact here. So Arjun is using Vishwarupa and Vishveshwara, right? So now this is interesting. We again pointing to the personal aspect. So the word Vishveshwara means Lord of the universe. But then Rupa, the word Rupa is the form aspect. So that's what Arjun is highlighting, that there's a personal aspect to the Lord. Yes, he is the controller of the universe, but the controller of the universe has a form. Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto 8th chapter, also refers to Krishna as one above the universe. Above, inside, everywhere of the universe. She also calls him Vishwamurti. She calls him Vishwamurti. So again, a form aspect, right? Vishvesha, Vishwatma, Vishwamurti. This is the first canto 8th chapter. There's a verse in there. So that's being described here. And he's everywhere. So that's what the meaning of no end, middle, and beginning is, that because end, middle, and beginning only exists where things are, where the time aspect is existing. But in the spiritual world, the time aspect doesn't exist. That's only for this material world. So in the spiritual world, there is no end, no middle, and no beginning. But for us, even though we cannot trace it back, there is beginning because it's a part of this material world. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides, like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs, right? So in the 15th verse, we saw that he went vertically from top to bottom. In 16th, he talked about Vishwarupa, right? And then here, what he's bringing out is Deepta. The word Deepta Anla means blazing fire. So it's burning, is blazing. The Rupa is burning, blazing. The essential point is that it's blindingly effulgent. So now he's describing that form in another way. So he's saying, though difficult to behold, I can see you, right? Because by your mercy, I have attained celestial eyes. By itself, the form is difficult to behold because it's brilliantly, effulgent as a blazing fire. It is, but then I can see it because you have given me universal eyes. And another interesting word here is aprameyam. Aprameyam means immeasurable. So it's immeasurable. Again, going back to the initial discussion we had, right? That even though Arjun is saying that his illusion is gone, but that does not mean that he can fully understand Krishna now. That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So it's still aparameyam. It's still immeasurable. Okay, so I think in the, let me see the next verse. Yes, okay. I will take a pause here if anybody has any thoughts, any comments, because what happens is that Arjun's, the way Arjun is going to progress, his what he's going to speak is, it will change in its mode. So initially it will be description, then Arjun will move to glorification, right? And then towards the end, it'll become a prayer. So even though it's just Arjun speaking from the 15th to the 31st verse, but his mood is changing. So till the 17th verse, it's primarily description. And from 17 to, I think, from 18 to next few words, it'll be glorification. He'll start glorifying Krishna. So I want to take a pause here and see if anybody has any thoughts, any comments here.
I remember something in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita where he was standing there with he dropped his bow or something, and he was standing there with his hair on end.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, because I remember a long time ago, I thought, your hair should be standing on end when you read about chanting the holy name. But this was like he had some other type of hair standing on end.
Yeah, it's very much like the goosebumps we say, right? We got goosebumps, yes. And that kind of hair standing, yes.
Yeah.
Not the head hair on the head, not that standing.
Right.
But more like goosebumps, yes.
Yeah. Interesting, you remembered that too.
Yeah, this is interesting part of the chapter. Obviously, 11th chapter is not, devotees don't like that, but it's interesting to read because the personal aspect is being glorified, plus Krishna will bring out his time aspect here. Kalo asmi kritshaya pravidho. It will come in the 31st or 30th, no, 33rd or 36th verse. Come later. So he brings out his Kala aspect. For people who don't listen to him, his Kala aspect comes and meets them. So yeah, so Arjun is now going to start with, as I mentioned, he's going to start describing, then he'll glorify, then he will offer obeisances, and then lastly he'll offer prayers. So in that 16 verses, you'll see a change in his mindset.
There was a famous rock star, and he had an album called Axis Bold as Love, and on the cover he had the Vishvarupa on it. His name was Jimi Hendrix, and he was writing the period with all those other people. That same period, everybody in there seemed to have a little dip of this culture of India. And the cover of that album was the many faces and the heads and everything. And I thought, oh, is this what God's about? All this, because we had only in the Catholic religion just an old man on the Sistine Chapel creating by Michelangelo's perspective. Then all of a sudden on the cover of this album, we see it all, and it was called The Axis Bold as Love.
What was that? Axis Bold as Love?
Yeah, As Bold as Love.
As Bold as Love. Okay, get that. Yeah.
I thought, oh, here it is. This is it. This is pretty cool. Where did this come from? I had no idea. But everything, was touched back then with something from this part of the other part of the world, Pretty amazing.
Everything was touched, yes. Yeah. It's amazing, I'm reading this book by Bhurijan Prabhu. His biography or his time that he spent with Prabhupada. He talks of that Woodstock festival. He went to distribute books there, and some of the other items. And he was talking how Jimi Hendrix was there also. Yeah, I think he talks about that.
Yeah,
So
he was.
everybody was touched. There were like, must be thousands and thousands of people had come there, and everybody was touched by the mantra. I think they even went on stage and sang the Hare Krishna mantra. So yeah, everybody was touched by what Prabhupada brought here for all of us.
They had a musical in Broadway. It's nonstop, art there, and they had this thing called Hair. This thing was called Hair, but they had the Hare Krishna mantra in there too. They were singing it. I mean, you can't believe, where it popped up throughout that culture, that phase, that wave of youth, that wave. So amazing. If you look at history, it's almost so amazing. You can't believe it really happened that way, and that Prabhupada came and captured the wave of people that were just so disgruntled.
Yeah.
How could this is such a divine arrangement for those that were suffering, and Krishna came to the rescue with Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
So amazing.
It is amazing. Yes. Okay, so let's move on to verse 18. So now the glorification aspect is coming in. You're the supreme primal objective. You're the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You're inexhaustible and you're the oldest. You're the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. Nidhanam. Nidhanam. So Arjun is using many words that Krishna himself has used. He said in the 9th chapter, there's a Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi, Nivashanam Sharanam Suhrit. Prabhava Pralaya Sthanam, Nidhanam Bijam Avyayam. So there the word Nidhanam comes. So Arjun is using words that Krishna himself has used about himself. And then also, Dharma Gopta is also something similar. Krishna calls he's Samsthapan, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. So he's the step. So something similar. Arjun is also saying Dharma Gupta. So now Arjun is accepting whatever Krishna has told him, right? So what is happening here is now Arjun is repeating the words, as I mentioned, some words that Krishna himself has used. So what does repetition do? Repetition strengthens the emotions. So repetition strengthens the emotions, what we have. Many people, sometimes people ask that, hey, if God is sitting in your heart, why do you have to pray? Why do you have to chant? Why do you go to the temple? He's sitting right in your heart. But the reason we do all that is because that strengthens our commitment towards Krishna. It strengthens my emotion, my expression by doing all that, right? So it's not just that it's black or white, that, okay, either I'm, Krishna conscious or I'm not. There is always a gradual progression, and that we build upon that progression by expressing our emotions, by expressing ourselves. Repetition is one of those ways. So Arjun is conveying an understanding of the universal form which is not permanent, right? But the person who's manifesting this revelation is eternal. That's what he's saying here. You're the supreme primal objective. Lot of objects, but only one objective, right? And then you're inexhaustible, you're the oldest, you're the maintainer. So all this, what Arjun is saying here, is not necessarily representing the universal form. The universal form is not permanent, but Arjun is saying you're inexhaustible, you're the oldest. So he is referring to Krishna here, right? So he's referring to the person who is manifesting this revelation. That person is eternal. So all things are personal, and Krishna is demonstrating that what he spoke in the 10th chapter, right? All those things that he spoke, right? So he's demonstrating it. So the universal form is dazzling and radiant. So in the 70th last verse we read, he said it's aparamiyam. Right? And here in the 18th verse, 18, yes, he's trying to describe it. So he's probably trying to measure it in one sense, right? But then, as he himself says, mohoyam vigato maya, that in the first verse of this chapter, that my illusion is gone. So going back to that important fundamental principle we discussed, that the removal of illusion just means that our obscured understanding is gone away, right? That's what being away from illusion means. Right? There is a restoration of our determination in Krishna. So whatever the reasons we are faltering in our service, those are removed when we become free of this illusion. That means that's what it means to understand Krishna. Right? So our devotional life, it only kicks off when we accept the principle that we cannot understand Krishna, we cannot conquer him with our material senses, with our material intelligence. Right? So all this, then we tend to doubt him also less then, because doubt comes from this preconceived intellectual framework. So we reduce that also. So that's what Arjun is doing here, and he's trying to express his understanding of the form that he's seeing, but that doesn't mean that he can fully understand Krishna either. Let's go ahead. 19th. You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and the moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Very interesting. So no beginning, no middle, no end. So Krishna doesn't belong to a particular person or nation. He has no inside or out. So the dualities found within this material world, such as beginning, end, mine, yours, they all are absent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now, this is the beginning of the Kalrupa here. Krishna, if you notice that, he's starting to talk about the Kalrupa. His, blazing fire coming from your mouth. So the ghastly form is coming out slowly and steadily here. So, and now, we just talked about this, without middle or end. So, repetition here. Earlier, I mentioned that how repetition is also an indication of strengthening your emotions, but repetition also is due to ecstasy. Right? In the 16th verse, the same thing was said. Right? So in 17th, Arjun called Krishna Aparameyam, and in 18th, he tries to describe that Aparameyam, and then now here he sings without beginning, middle, and end. So all this is, he's repeating again some things, and the repetition is because of his ecstasy that he is in. Right? So sometimes that repetition causes ecstasy, also causes repetition. Right? And he's saying that you have numberless arms. So numberless arms, numberless eyes. So so he's saying that your sun and the moon are your eyes. So there's one way you can even think that, eyes are like the moon. Moon is pleasing for the people who are obedient to Krishna, right? Like the Devatas. But then eyes can be like the sun, harsh sun, to the demons who disobey Krishna. So that's one way of understanding this, sun and moon eyes. Right? So that's it. So the rasa that is being demonstrated here is of great astonishment. That's what he's doing. And then we have seen this kind of astonishment comes across scriptures. When Narad Muni, he goes to Dwarka, right? He saw that Krishna was present within every palace in the same body, and he was doing different things. Somewhere he was playing with his children, somewhere sitting with his wife, somewhere talking to elderly of the town, and so on and so forth. So he was astonished to see that. So Narada was astonished. So that's an example of astonishment in devotional service, right? Astonishment was when Krishna picked up the Govardhan hill on his finger. Many gopis, friends of Mother Yashoda, would come and tell him, see, there's this young child who is sucking milk from your breast, but then at the same time, he's the one who picked up the Govardhan hill on his tiny finger. So that was also a sense of astonishment. So there are a lot of these examples of astonishment in our Shastras, astonishment in devotional service. So it doesn't mean that astonishment can only be in, so these rasas, these mellows can also be exhibited in bhakti. 20. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all planetary systems are perturbed. So there is pervasiveness here and there's fear here. So there are two aspects that are being talked about. There is all pervasive, you're spread throughout, and then there is the perturbed. So there's pervasiveness and fear. Right? So the two words that are being used here is Adbhutam, and there is Ugram. So Adbhutam and Ugram. So Adbhuta means awesome, Ugram is fearsome. So all the planets and everywhere, their three worlds are troubled. So there is wonder and there is dreadful emotions in the same verse. So that's being mentioned here. So all the other planetary systems are being perturbed. And Prabhupada is saying that not only Arjun, there were other also who got that divine vision. And we'll see this later on, and Prabhupada is bringing it out here. And it's not just Arjun who's fearful. There are other, all the other planetary systems. There are people on other planetary systems who are perturbed by this. So there are others who got this vision also. So it's not that Arjun is dreaming. Others also had this vision. Then 21. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying all peace are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. Yeah, so they are being talked. So it's a continuation of the last verse.
Haribol.
Haribol, Prabhu.
So now I'm a little confused here. You said that this form doesn't really exist, but at the time that it manifests, there were certain, when Krishna manifests this for Arjuna, like these demigods, everybody saw it and they got fearful. Is that what happened then?
Yes.
They allowed to see it, and at that point they were fearful.
Yes.
Because they don't just hang around with this form or anything, right?
No, they're just seeing it. Yeah.
Just now.
Yeah, and there are different kinds of people, right? So there is some devatas who are fearful. And what are they saying? They're saying they're very much afraid. So there were words, which was that? So this swasti, the word swasti means be all peace. There is this word is being used, swasti. So some of them are they have their hands folded, so they are fearful, they are very much afraid, and what they are offering prayers is that please protect us. But then there are some who are praising him. So there are, even in demigods, there are some categories of demigods or even other higher planets. There are some category of people who are fearful of that form, and they are very much afraid. But then there are some people who are just happy on seeing this, and they are saying swasti. Swasti, the word swasti is being used. So yes, many people saw it, but then the response was, different. Some great sages, they were at peace. Some were, disturbed by that, and they were fearful. But yes, many other people saw it. So So, and then there are these siddhas are being mentioned here. The word is it siddhas? Siddha. Maharshi, Siddha, Sangha. So Maharishi is somebody. Rishi means sage. Maharishi becomes great sage. And Siddha is a perfected being. So there are many such people who also saw it. And according to their perceptions, they offered prayers, they offered eulogies, eulogies and praises, or they were fearful, they were offering some prayers accordingly. Yeah. The word swasti, the swastik, right? We know the word swastik. You know, it's a good word. It means, as Prabhupada is telling us, all peace. But Hitler just messed it up for everybody forever by using the swastik sign for his army. So the Siddhas stay in Tapaloka. They're the upper planetary systems, right? So sometimes the Tapaloka is also called as Siddhaloka. I think Tapaloka is just next to Brahmaloka, just the lower. So that's being described here. So it's glorification here. And slowly this will turn into offering of prayers to Krishna. Which verse is this? 22nd. All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishwadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. Right? So now there's a shift in the focus of Arjun, the focus of Arjun's description. Now Asura is also being described. So there are three planetary systems that were mentioned earlier. So they are celestial, terrestrial, and subterranean, right? We just broadly describe that. Terrestrial is where we are living, celestial is upper, subterranean is lower. So this shows that the whole universe is full of living beings, right? We know only of this planet, but there are 400,000 species of humans. So 400,000 different consciousness. Right? Now extend this logic to the other planets, and it becomes unlimited. It's like Star Wars. There were so many different characters there, right? All these characters, Wookiees, Ewoks, so many of them, right? Javas, there was Yodas, humans. So the universe is not vacant. So Star Wars took all the concept from our scriptures. So the universe is full with living entities, living beings, but we don't have access to them. Depending on our consciousness, we might or might not have access to. That's why all these names are being brought out here.
Haribo.
Yes, true.
This is if we stop for a second, this is once again, when you hear about Lord Brahma and how great he is and how long he lives, and you just get overwhelmed with how intense he is, and then all of a sudden you turn and and then we understand that he has a boss. He has someone higher than him. So here we go again with all these great saints, all the great energies that can manifest, and there's something heavier than all of them. Again.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that every now and then, I get pushed to the limit, and then I get something tops it, something trumps it all.
Yeah.
And that's Krishna again, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, because you're going on and on and on again. Here he goes. And then, we see everyone else seeing that and these are the great entities within this universe, or all the universes that are exposed to this at this moment. Yeah. And there's something beyond it all that they have to fold their hands. So it's really beautiful how Krishna just can manifest himself in a way that nothing tops this. Even with our limited perspective, it just goes way beyond that.
It goes way beyond. Yes.
It's really beautiful.
23. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I. So he's saying, Tatahaham, but I'm also disturbed just like all the others I've been talking about. So this is the first mention of teeth here. So once again, going back to the personal aspect. So this is the first mention of teeth. So this is the first reference of effect of the universal form on Arjun. So he's saying, so am I. I'm disturbed by looking at it. So this is the first time he's bringing it. And now begins the Bhyanak Rasa, the ghastly form of Krishna that he's going to start talking about. So he's saying, O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. So, so now his mind, he's overwhelmed. His emotions are overwhelmed. His rational faculty is becoming weak, right? So, so he's kind of now in a more, he's losing his steadiness. Yeah, so 24 verse. Yeah, so I can no longer maintain my steadiness. So there is a one important thing here is he's calling Krishna Vishnu here. That's an important thing here also. So, so the word Vishnu means vishate, right? To enter and pervade everywhere. Ishavasya idam sarvam. So the word, so the word Vishnu, it comes from Vishate. So that's the quality that Arjun is now highlighting, that the all-pervasive aspect. That's why he's calling Krishna Vishnu. So so Vishnu can expertly enter the universe and take away the devotees back home, back to Godhead. So that's why Vishnu extricates his devotees. So that is being, so Arjun is indirectly requesting Krishna to just take him out of this material aspect. And he sees Krishna gaping mouth. So gaping mouth is mouth like a lion. You must have seen lions gape. So that's another demonstration, what's giving him fear. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. So the word here is Damshtra Karalani Chati Mukhani. Damshtra. So we see a fearful form of God now. It's a fearful form. Blazing death-like faces, awful teeth. So Krishna is not just good, but he is he's complete, right? He's the perfect in all aspects in this existence. So perfection is at both ends. Right? He's Janmadhyasya Yatha. He's the origin of all existence. But this is hard to comprehend. People always ask, oh, if God is good, then where does evil come from? And what some sections of society give as a rationale is that Satan is able to hide away from God and do something which God is not, does not know. Well, technically, God is all-knowing, all-merciful, all-powerful, but he does not know. So some sections of society claim that it's just that God does not know about it, but that's not what Bhagavad Gita tells. Bhagavad Gita tells that Krishna knows everything. He's all-pervasive. Krishna is all conscious of knowing everything that's happening in any corner of this universe. Right? Yeah. But since somebody can ask, why does evil exist? So evil exists when we turn away from Krishna. So that's where darkness comes into being. It doesn't mean that Krishna has gone away or Krishna is not present there. It's just that I am not paying attention to what Krishna is saying or doing. And then we all have a free will. And Durga, appointed by Krishna, has a perfect system of calamity, giving everybody calamity and happiness. Okay. So, yes. So, so now Arjun is he's talking about all directions. So first he was far off, then he came close, he talked about teeth and all that, and now again he's moving away from it, right? So he talked about the personal aspects, and then he's coming close up, and then he'll start to kind of move the focus also. So right now he's focusing on the fearful form. 26 and 27 are together. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouth. And as some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. So the word that's used is Churniter Uttamange. So it's interesting how Sanskrit has words that kind of demonstrate that emotion perfectly, right? Different word usage for different rasas. Churniter Uttamange. So there's no better language for thinking, feeling, and willing. So now Arjun is, so let's see what this is. So we just read that. So now Arjun is thinking in his mind, oh Krishna, you are without end, beginning, and middle. So probably you can show me what's in stock in future. So Krishna indirectly understands the question, and that's what he's showing now. That that all of those soldiers are not just of the opposite end, but on his end also. They're also going into their mouths. So point here is that death is universal. All were going to die no matter what they do, right? So Arjun has to understand that this is the will of destiny, right? But it's disturbing Arjun. He just said, oh, I'll not fight Krishna, right? So, but that's not Krishna has already defined it. All this is going to happen. All you have to do is just be a part of it. Just be nimitta matra bhava sabya sachin. Just be an instrument, Arjun. That's all. That's what Krishna is demonstrating here. Okay, 28 and 29, there are a couple of analogies. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. Let's see the other one. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So the first analogy is of a river entering into the ocean. The other is moths entering into a fire, right? So let's just see what's it. Okay, so the way acharyas explain this, that the first analogy of rivers is for people like Bhishma, right? And the second analogy is for people like Duryodhan, the Kauravas, right? So as a river glides to ocean, so these are not common beings; they are great heroes, Bhishma, right? But then the moths, they are just tiny insects, right? So that's being used in a negative sense. So that metaphor refers to Kauravas. So Duryodhana knowingly, intentionally, deliberately chose to go into fire, just like a moth does. So they all are going into fire. They all are doing that. So there is a lot of violence happening. And that's another thing that Bhagavad Gita demonstrates, that one should not chicken away from violence in the name of being a peace lover, a pacifist. That's not what Bhagavad Gita teaches us. But then it should be the last alternative. Right? But it does not rule it out entirely also, violence. If unscrupulous people are given a free hand in the society, the whole society will go to hell. Right? So even though Bhagavad Gita demonstrates an urgency of spirituality, there is a social responsibility of spiritualists and the necessity for an assertive action in order to correct society if need be. So violence is needed. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths. That's 29. Okay, we read that. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths, covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifest with the terrible scorching rays, right? So this is 30. What's this? Leli hase. That's an interesting word. Li hise means that he's licking his mouth like a lion, right? When he eats, after eating his prey, he licks his mouth. So it's licking. Earlier verses, they were skulls crushing. So it's all very disturbing. The universal form is licking blood. It's just a form that demonstrates, it's just a vision that is demonstrating inevitable destruction. That's bound to happen. And then I think this is 31st is, let me see. Okay, from 32, Krishna speaks. So we'll stop at 31. Let's see what 31 is saying. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You're the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. So now here, the obeisance, he started to, so earlier it was description, then it was glorification, and now it's obeisances. So he's started to bring obeisances. The relationship has changed now. There's the Bhavan. Yeah. So there's the intention has changed. Now he's asking this question, who are you? Right. So okay, not actually two, there are two questions. One is who you are, and the other question is what your mission is. So there are two questions that Arjun is asking here to that form, right? And we will see answers to those as Krishna gives from 32nd verse onwards. I'll start that section next week. Anybody has any thoughts, any comments? We covered a lot of verses today, I think from 9 to 31, good number of verses. But then this is just a quick read for us. To any thoughts, any comments, last minute, anyone?
You know, I got one thing I had to give this class the other day, and I said that, can you imagine, can somebody here imagine just, you're in a bank, the bank robbers come in with the guns, and you're the police officer, but all of a sudden you don't want to shoot them. And there's a situation where the violence couldn't be avoided. And there's people in society to help protect people against situations like this. And all of a sudden, Arjun wants to act like the people of the 60s. They just want to, throw up a peace sign and act like everything's going to be la-di-da. And, don't do this, don't do that. And so it was really, I said, so it was so contradictory. We have to actually understand that there's some real practicality in our existence on this planet, and that has to be seen, in the activities of this information,
Yeah.
Just like you were just saying, it's what is your mission? What is going on here? And we see Arjun, and I told the people, yeah, you can't, the answer wasn't run off into the woods to start meditating now all of a sudden. I said, there's something else that has to be, perceived here.
Yeah.
But the whole aspects of this Bhagavad Gita is just different angles of Krishna convincing someone like me about something that's way beyond, this makes special effects of Hollywood nothing. I mean, so many points he takes beyond special effects in this Bhagavad Gita. And Arjun like you say, he tries to put it into words or describe it. And it's very, very, even Prabhupada said, we are so limited, how can one, try to explain?
Yes, that's true. How can one try to explain?
I mean, this was a whole hour and a half of intensity here. All the different things going on.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? You can't. I mean, and just how it's explained, it's very, very, very very amazing. You know, I mean, this would be very wonderful if they could expose the Bhagavad Gita as it is, you know, in some type of film. Do they have something like this, a real one as it is anywhere in India?
A
Is there any
movie?
as it is? Yeah, as it is.
I'm not sure of a movie. There surely is I think there's a diorama in Delhi in one of the temples about the whole Bhagavad Gita. But yeah, I'm not sure if it fully does justice to the book, but that's the only thing I know of.
Yeah, because I mean, when Macmillan got this book and they went into publication, they never saw a book like this fly off the shelves ever.
Yeah.
And so many people became attracted to Krishna through this publication at that time. They knew that. They knew this person was something special. Whoever he is, we don't, you know, they wanted a book from each religion, but then all of a sudden they found a shining moon that they wanted to publicize, and Prabhupada could care less. It was about the book. You know, he wanted that as it is. And I was thinking that the same thing just now, that if that was presented as it is in a film, it would be so dynamic too. It would be so special.
It'd be so special, yes.
But here's another thing too. I think that in reading this Bhagavad Gita, you know, I read it 1972, and there were certain things that made a lot of sense to me. Just a few things, but they made a lot of sense. Like you know, like something about the body, and you're not the soul. You're the soul and not the body. You know, some basic, simple elements. But when I gave it to my friends and took it home to them, they didn't see that. They didn't see nothing. They were just excited that I was telling them the story, and so we just, you know, and they so much of it, it was okay for them, and they liked it, and it was something new. But so maybe even if we did the movie, people wouldn't see it either, because one thing is, like, you have to have given the mercy of the vision, and you have to have the, you know, the Bhakti-Lata BG, you have to have that devotional service. You know, Prabhupada even speaks that mature devotional service that will take you somewhere. Well, if you don't have that, this Bhagavad Gita is just like another night at the movies, huh? You might not even see it. But the value here, you know, I'm just seeing after 50 years of studying it that it is even more amazing and more alive than I've ever experienced anything here. This is so dynamic. It's like my spiritual life has changed again in the last parts of my life. You know, I'm older now, but there's some nice information here, amazing information here. That allows me to explain it in a certain way. Like, I can just go to a crowd and talk to people about certain points. Can you imagine this? And then I bring something that Krishna does, and then I sum it up as an understanding from a spiritual perspective, and then people just are amazed. They've never heard anything like that, isn't it? And it's right here. You know, I told them I read the Book of Promises. I told them this is the Book of Promises, and I read 4 or 5 things of Krishna's promise. And I had that book that had all the tabs. I said, you see all these blue tabs? These are the promises. I said, and these other ones, these are the tabs of the holy name. The holy name is at least mentioned 35 times in the Bhagavad Gita, I said. But we have all these promises, you know, so people could really look at the specialty of this book, you know. Really, really amazing. And that we can spend time and hear it and enjoy like this. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate the devotees that come here, and we get a chance to hear this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And sometimes, like today, I was tired. I said, man, I'm tired. But all of a sudden, something happened. As you know, all of a sudden, I felt better. I feel better now. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's time to go to bed. Now you got me all woke up again. I'm going to read some more of this Bhagavad Gita, see where it takes me. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll come back next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.